now I got 25 stinking good singers, right? And I decided to call them the Continentals because I had this urge in me to go somewhere. I didn't. I'm the type. I'm not. I'm not satisfied to sit around very long. So now I have this group, and they're good, and they're singing on Saturday nights. We got two different groups again, and some of them are driving 80 miles to the rehearsals. I'm rehearsing Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm writing my brains out, living at McDonald's. That was my food. Sleep wasn't there somewhere, and everything by hand. There was no. I couldn't buy any youth music from Stephen V. whatever down in Nashville. There was nothing.
Right.
Unless I wrote it, we didn't have it. So, and then mimeographed everything. In those days, you just did a mimeograph. So we were reading hand notes from a mimeograph machine, and that's how the Continentals got going. I still have some of those. I found them in my garage. I'm cleaning up yesterday. I got a whole notebook of all of those that I did in those years. It's really funny to look at that and think, oh my gosh, how did they sing those notes? But whatever. So now we're coming in to the spring, and we've had a great year. It's been wonderful at Portland Youth for Christ. Lots of kids found the Lord, and I know that this Winona Lake thing is coming up again. And some of our kids were involved in, like Ken Wegner was in a preacher boy competition, has somebody else in the song leading, somebody in the vocal. So we had all these divisions, and we were going to be in the choir one. So I went to the board of directors, and I said, I'd like to take our little Continental group back to Warsaw, Indiana for the Winona Lake Convention. And they said to me, what? It's 2,000 miles. I said, you can't take kids that far away. I said, yeah, I put them in a bus and we'll just drive over there. We'll do a few concerts on the way. I'll make this happen. They said, no. I said, we have to do this. This is a Youth for Christ event, and you're a Youth for Christ rally, and we got to get these kids there. They said, okay, here's the deal. If it loses money, you're going to lose. And I was making $400 a month then. I was in the bucks. Okay. And I said, but they said, if it makes money, we get it. He said, that's the deal. If it loses, you lose. If it wins, we win. Do you want that deal? They thought for sure I'd say no. And I said, okay, that's done. We'll do it. We're going. I'll do that. Then I booked that tour myself from Youth for Christ to Youth for Christ to Youth for Christ to Youth for Christ all across the country and some churches. And we got there. We won the competition. By the way, in 1963, I remember talking to the head of the youth thing for Youth for Christ International. And we were talking, and he said, why don't you make a record? And I said, his name was Bill Aiken. And I said, you think we should make a record? And he said, yeah, you guys are really good. So I thought, oh, okay. So his name was Bill Aiken. That's why on my first record, it says, Bill Aiken says, sing a happy song.
I have a copy
because
of it.
because we just thought, and I gave him a little bit of the royalty, even how stupid of me, but whatever. Anyway, so now I go back to Youth for Christ, and I went to the board and said, I'd like to make a record. And they said, no, we're not going to support a record. I said, hold it. You don't have to support it. I'm paying for the record, but if it wins, I win this time because it's going to be my money in it. Da, da, da. And they said, okay. Long story short, we went to a radio studio in town in one of those old buildings,
Yeah.
And there was one microphone. It was a big Telefunken microphone. These things are this big, right?
Yeah.
And so we all stood around it. And over here, I had an accordion, a drummer, a bass player, and they're on the outside. And we're all around. There's one microphone. So we did this whole record of the top, all when I was leading the youth sings things and all the church, these are the songs. It was like in today's world, it would be the top worship songs of the day.
Right.
And 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 so it, funny song like "Are we downhearted? No, no, no." Things like that, stupid stuff. But they loved it. They loved it. So we did this whole record. I thought, where am I going to send this master tape? I know. I'll send it to Word Records. They're the biggest there is. What the heck? Send it to Texas to Word Records. They were on the phone to me the next day when they got it. We love this. We're taking it. We're sending you money for a picture. So they sent me $100 to take a picture, and that's that picture on the cover where we're sitting in the room with the Pepsi bottles. And so Word put that silly record on their record club. They had a record club. The biggest group they had those days was the Happy Goodmans, the Goodman family.
Yeah.
And there was some others out there. Spurlos were on their label. Now here comes the new Continentals, and we're on there. And we get on the record club. Holy cow. They sold 20,000 the first month. And I was making a lot more money than I was making with you for Christ. But that ended. I mean, it was the only time that I ever sold any was that first big bunch. But the thing is, it kicked us off. It kicked the name of the Continental. Suddenly, our people across the country knew who we were. Our music was in the Christian bookstores. We've been out there. And so next year, 64, we did a tour. And I took them to the Caribbean, actually. I wanted to get out of the country. So we went to Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and
Haiti, I think. Didn't you go to Haiti?
we went to Haiti. But boy, we had a wonderful time.
Hmm.
And it blessed those people, and it blessed us. And then in 1965, Youth for Christ asked me to come and be the main music guy for the entire convention. It was a dream for me. That's where I first saw Ralph Carmichael. He was that when I first went there. That's what he did. And they had just these big name people. I thought, why are they asking me? I want to do this, but I declined. I followed my plan. This is the last time I ever worked for anybody, Jim. From that moment on, I was never, ever going to have somebody tell me I couldn't go. So, so I said, okay, I'm working for you. I'll do what you say. So I called you for Christ and said, I can't do it. But I tell you what, the next best guy I know would be Kurt Kaiser at Word Records. He came up and produced 2 records for me. In fact, in 64, when we finished that tour, this is a story. 64, we finished the tour. Word had said we want more records. So I planned 2 records in 2 days. The first one was to be our show. It was called Life is a Symphony. So the title of that record was going to be Life is a Symphony. But the other one, they wanted a bunch of those choruses again, little worship choruses.
Right.
We didn't have any. I hadn't arranged any for a long, long time. So all summer, when the housing person came, I would say, put me in the house with a piano. And they would put me in the house with a piano. And I would say to the people, do you have any songbooks? And they would pull out a songbook, and I would, I'm going to use a softball, but do you mind? No. So I would diddly do. I'm not a keyboard player. It's a tool for me to write music with. So I did that every night all summer. And then I would arrange it in the morning and arrange it at night. And so I was arranging on the bus. I get one done, we'd rehearse it on the bus, da 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 da. By the time we got to LA at the end of the summer, we had the whole record ready to go.
Yeah.
But it took the whole summer. I was writing at night and on the bus, and they were singing. And so now we had 2 records, that one and the show, Life is a Symphony. So Word put us up at the Knickerbocker Hotel, which is across the street from Capitol Records. We're going to be at Capitol Records. Woo, woo, woo. The Continentals from Portland, Oregon. Anyway, so we show up in there, and we go to the Studio A, and they add some orchestra, some strings. The Jimmy Getzoff strings came and played with the Continental band. I kept my band. Daryl Gardner and the guys were great, and they did their own job. And then Kurt added these people in. And so we made that whole record in one day. Life is a Symphony. And then we got on the bus and drove to Burbank and did a concert. We're in the studio from 8 o'clock on until 5. Get on that bus. We drive like crazy from Hollywood to Burbank, and we did a concert at that Burbank church. So the second day we did the other record, and bless them, they said, you don't have to do a concert. We stayed at the hotel. Anyway, that's how that all happened. So I wanted to be the guy to direct the music at Winona Lake, but I said to them, Kurt Kaiser is a great musician. You will love him. They loved him so much, he did it for years. So I never really got to do it. But that takes us to the first 3 tours of the Continentals. And then I went back to my school and got a master's degree and moved to LA. And you know the rest of the story because we started then. But here's one thing that you got to know. I don't think I've ever told you this. I had no job in LA to go to, but I knew I was going to be in choir music, and I had already been to Hawaii once, 1964. I read every book in the library on it, and I just had to go, and I loved it so much. And so I thought, I'm going to go to Honolulu and start the Aloha Singers. That's what I'm going to do. So I took all my earthly goods down to the ship, loaded them on during the week. My prayer all week was, Lord, if you don't want me to go to Hawaii, change the direction. That's how I've always done things. You know, I believe I take a step here. I believe God's called me to do things. And when the doors open and easy and the Spirit's directing, no problem. Sometimes you don't know. And so my prayer is always, okay, Lord, I think this is what you want me to do. But if not, it's fine. Slam the door in my face and put me in another direction. I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. So my prayer all week was, if you want me to go to Honolulu with the Aloha Singers, that's what I'm going to do. You had to know by Saturday if you were, because that was too late. Can't take your stuff off the boat anymore. Friday night, I got a call from a guy named Fred Bach. Fred Bach was one of the arrangements for Word Records, and he had a company, and he was a really good writer, and he was the music director of the Ballet Presbyterian Church. That's where he was. And he said, I've got a church down in Redondo Beach that's looking for a music guy. Wondered if you would be interested. I said, I'm very interested. And then he said, I'm doing some songbooks. I need somebody here to write piano parts. I said, well, I'm not a pianist, but I'll give it a go. He said, okay, come on down. And on that basis, I took my stuff off the ship and moved to California. I just felt that's what God wanted me to do. I prayed it and prayed it and prayed it. He intervened and stopped where I was planning and sent me in another direction. And the direction was, you're part of the result of that direction.
On behalf of tens of thousands of people, thank you for that decision.
Have you ever wished you could gift your life-changing Continental experience to someone else? Well, you can. Your monthly giving can make a huge impact for our teams all over the world. Did you know that this year, we'll have more than 20 Continental groups on the road, communicating in 7 different languages? The Continental story goes on, so keep writing your part of it by being on our support team. And our groups will say, thank you, in 7 different languages.